Hi, this is Jake Schultz, and this is my presentation or the media presentation for my topic brief titled Prayer in Public Schools for um, the class Education 6740. Um, and this topic brief covers the history of the debate over the issue of prayer in the public schools. It gives a brief history also of the case law that has been written since 1962 and through the present, dealing with what's gone on in the public schools and prayer. There's quite a debate that has gone on and continues to go on. The field study that I take you through is a survey that was given to school employees asking how they've been involved in public school prayer. There are also some reasons listed of how this will affect current and future administrators in their jobs. One of the reasons that I decided to do this topic was in our school district at Fremont High this December. There was quite a stir. Every year, Fremont chooses a theme for the year for their seniors, and that they print this in many places throughout the school. And one of the places is printing them on T-shirts, and then they sell them to students. It's been a long tradition that's taken place for years and years, and they had done this year. On the shirt somewhere is the mascot, which is a silver wolf, and they're typically done in Fremont blue and white or silver. And this past December, or this school year, they had printed those, but this past December, a group of Fremont students who are student leaders at the LDS seminary decided that they wanted to make some shirts and distribute them to seminary students. Most think that it was done out of naively and not out of trying to cause anybody bad feelings. But the theme that they chose and what they wanted printed on these shirts that the seminary was going to distribute was "I'm a Mormon." So they printed that on the shirts, and they actually printed them in blue and had the silver wolf on the shirt. Well, as you can imagine, this caused quite a stir, and it caused issues with the students who were non-LDS students, teachers who were non-LDS students. It kind of made people draw lines in the sand, and there was a lot of heated discussion and arguments and what was legal and the what should go on in between the release time off campus seminary and how close they could be tied to the actual high school. Anyway, this was a big distraction and really caused some problems, and most of all was a big distraction to the learning process. So that was one of the reasons I kind of had this at the top of my mind. The topic brief, or religion, prayer in schools particularly, has its history in the First Amendment. There are two clauses in the First Amendment called the religion clauses, which state that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise of religion. So this debate was obviously on people's minds even at the founding of the country, and the laws or the amendments were put in place to help everybody understand what that separation of church and state should look like. The history, just a quick history. The issue on trial with the constitutionality of daily classroom prayer was looked at in Engel versus Vitale in 1962. This case, through this case, the Supreme Court ruled that school-sponsored prayer was actually unconstitutional, and that was kind of the start in this in this century, I guess. After this Supreme Court decided that there was not going to be any school-sponsored prayer, the debate kind of moved through a few different issues with prayer and extracurricular activities. um, before the year 1995 in Santa Fe School District in Texas, it was customary for the elected student council chaplain to deliver a prayer over the sound system before every football game. This had been a long tradition um, throughout Texas, and in particular in this school district. In Texas, high school football is a very, very big event. Every Friday night, you can find most people in the community at the high school football game, and that's why this was such a big event. Well, eventually, they ruled that this was unconstitutional also, for a number of different reasons. The debate then moved on and continues actually now today to look at pregame prayer by athletic teams. In the United States, there's a lot of tradition for athletic teams and coaches that they pray together before the games. These traditions have been thought to promote team identity and cohesiveness and instill a sense of pride for the athletes and the students. Myself, as a young athlete, I remember many prayers that took place in the locker rooms and didn't really think twice about it. With where I grew up, it was not looked at as bad, or it wasn't even brought up as being a choice or not a choice. So I was interested in what would take place, or what's taking place in that same district, which I teach now, and which brings us to the field activity that I did. Actually, after, we'll go back quickly. We'll go back to the history. After the pregame prayer by athletic teams, now they're starting. One of the hot topics, or the big debate now, is looking at a moment of silence, and so that's kind of where it's going to now. But anyway, in my field activity, what I did is I took a survey and gave the survey, I believe, to 34 different teachers, coaches, and administrators, and asked them a number of questions. The questions that I asked was, is prayer in public school legal? As a coach, have you ever been involved in a pregame prayer? Yes or no? Is a moment of silence legal in public schools? As a player, have you ever been involved in a pregame prayer? As a coach, have you asked someone to lead a team in a prayer? And as a player, have you ever been asked to give a pregame prayer? I thought this would be a very interesting subject, or a number of questions to ask, especially because I knew what my experience was in this same school district many years ago. We won't say how many, but it was in the same school district. The information that I got back was very interesting to me. We'll go through that quickly. Two of the questions that I thought were quite important or quite interesting was, is prayer in public schools legal? I did give a depends answer. 10 actually answered depends. I didn't give them why or why not, just yes, no, or depend. 6% or 6 said yes, and 16 said no, that it was not legal, but 6 actually did say yes. As a coach, have you ever been involved in a pregame prayer? If you look at the laws that have come down through the Supreme Court, an employee of the school should not be able to be involved or direct a school prayer. It needs to be student directed and without any influence from employees of the district. Interestingly enough, 17 said no, they had not been involved in a pre-game prayer. 15 said yes. So comes down to it, the debate still lives on. The separation of church and state is hotly debated. The difference, we've started with school prayer and we've come to a moment of silence, and there's always going to be a debate on where the line is drawn between church and state, and it was a very interesting topic for me to research and write about in this topic brief. So I hope you learned something. I know I did, and thank you very much.